get the most value for our taxpayers' dollars, we needed to be better. And we can go to all of our specialized trainings for our industries. We can go to water training, wastewater training, parks training, city manager training, and we'll get to know about what's happening, the latest trends and place structures for parks, or new equipment to treat our processes and what we do out in the field. But nothing ever hits on how to manage, how to lead, how to get the most from our people, and really how we can be a better organization by being better individuals. So I included a memo in the in your packet, pretty self-explanatory about, and I don't need to read it because there's a presentation coming after, but I'm not going to don't want to gloss over some of the high points, so bear with me as I get to where I'm going. It has our expenditures to date, and if you recall, in these last two budget rounds, I asked for a significant amount of money for our training for this purposes. And the first year, I asked for $300,000 in training, and that year we spent $163,000 in that echelon front extreme ownership training, and I asked for $200,000. Thankfully, you guys approved that for this budget year we're currently in, and so far we've spent about $51,000 in the training for a grand total of $214,613 and change. And at this point in the path, as we'll call it, every employee in some way has been touched by extreme ownership. They either have the book, or they're engaged in online training or training with their own staff. They're doing that. I know we have some of the fire department here. There's first responder training for police and fire individuals. Some things, so the economics of how Echelon Front does things have changed, so I'm taking a pause to see like what's going to be the most beneficial for us. That being said, it has made a difference, and it was important for me tonight to invite a bunch of staff here tonight. That's why you see a full house, because it's impacted them in a way. And if there are no like really pressing questions right now, I'd like to turn it over to Chief Tim Gonzalez and then Debbie Cohen from our Assessors Department, who put together a brief presentation about what it means for our city employees. Come on up, guys. Just remember to try to get the mic as best.
Yeah. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, City Council, Mr. Green. My name is Tim Gonzalez, and beside me is Deb Cohen, my partner for tonight's presentation. We're here this evening to talk about and elaborate on the personal and professional impacts of our first ever leadership program for the City of Jackson staff. Leadership is the solution to every problem. This is a quote from former Navy SEAL Jocko Willink, co-author of New York Times bestselling book Extreme Ownership and co-founder of the company Echelon Front, a leadership training program with the mission to pass on leadership lessons learned as a former Navy SEAL to leaders everywhere, at every level, in every capacity, in order to help leaders develop the skills necessary to take care of their people, lead themselves, and lead the teams to victory. This program has been proven to work wherever it has been applied, in government, medicine, industry, retail, and in business.
Good evening, everyone. The Extreme Ownership book has been read by 3.5 million people. The program is used worldwide in over 60 countries by more than 1,200 clients in almost 40 Fortune 500 companies in 42 different industries. Echelon Front has conducted over 3,000 on-site training sessions, with almost 400 of those being first responder organizations. Over 13,000 people have attended numerous in-person training events held by Echelon Front, and there are over 500,000 members of their virtual training sessions. So what is extreme ownership? There are 4 key principles of extreme ownership. These principles empower everyone in our organization to communicate effectively, delegate without ego, mutually support each other, and identify the most valuable and effective use of their time. It begins with acknowledging that there is no one else to blame. You must rein in your ego and own the problems along with the solutions and commit to leading up and down the chain of command. It's all on you, but it is not about you. This style of leadership complements Jonathan's own leadership style, and he's made it his goal to teach extreme ownership to every city employee. As simple as extreme ownership sounds, the principles are not easy to implement. Jonathan sets the example, and he's given city staff the opportunity to learn and grow within this program. The result has been an incredible shift in culture, a greater sense of collaboration with each other and with the residents of Jackson. What does extreme ownership mean to us as city employees? Watch this video. You can't have a presentation without technical difficulties.
I started recognizing like what works and what doesn't, but it wasn't really until Task Unit Bruiser. We'd have training instructors be like, "You guys are the best task unit we've ever seen come through here," and it was interesting to me because we have some amazing guys in this task unit, but I had amazing guys in my last task unit too. So it's not really the talent factor that broke us out. It certainly wasn't that we didn't make mistakes, because we made all kinds of mistakes in Task Unit Bruiser and disastrous training operations where we had to come back and revamp our training process and make sure that we dialed in standard operating procedures. Just what training's supposed to be.
Exactly.
And
Right?
exactly.
That's the difference, really.
Yeah, and that was it. It was this idea that we now call extreme ownership, which is we're going to take ownership of this. And instead of being like, hey, we're going to push back against people that are telling us we need to be better, or we're going to maybe even deny that we're as bad as we are, we're going to take a brutally honest assessment of ourselves. You don't ever tell my guys they're amazing, that's the best one they've ever seen, because that allows us to not get better, to not grow, to get complacent. So we always did that, and I recognized just how powerful that was to our performance. So again, we were never flawless. We made mistakes, but we learned from those mistakes. We got better, we grew all the time, and we were able to run circles around everybody else as a result, and deliver some exceptional performance on the battlefield with that attitude. And that's that mindset and attitude is the game changer. That's why we call the book Extreme Ownership. And it's what we impart to people as we see in the business world. And at the end of the day, there's what works, there's what doesn't work.
In your business, and it's also in your life too, what can you do a little bit better? You attack those problems. You accept the criticism when it comes at you, which is so hard for everyone to do, myself included. You accept the criticism, listen to it, and then you modify it. You make these little iterative changes, and at the end, instead of being a decent task unit, or instead of being a decent person, or instead of running a decent team, you can be the best.
Good leaders don't make excuses. Instead, they figure out how to get things done.
Use the stress to make you a better you.
The cover and move aspect of extreme ownership would be the most applicable to me. We move as one unit on the first floor, and the concept of cover and move has enhanced the way I participate as a team member.
Applicable to professional and personal growth.
When the entire team takes ownership, success is guaranteed.
Lead and win. Leaders should never be satisfied. They must always strive to improve, and they must build that into the mindset of the team. Get after it.
Discipline equals freedom.
Continuous positive growth.
Empowering and has improved the quality of my many daily interactions.
Cover and move.
Without leadership, nothing happens. With bad leadership, the wrong things happen. Leadership is a muscle that must be exercised and trained to get stronger. The best teams are constantly looking to improve, add capability, and push the standards higher. That's exactly what Team Jackson is doing now with extreme ownership. All this to provide better service to the Jackson community.
Get after it. Discipline equals freedom.
Extreme ownership has really enhanced how we define team. Offering assistance to other departments, especially during their peak season or busy times, has become more of the rule than the exception.
Extreme ownership is about personal responsibility and self-discipline.
Communication inside and outside the organization.
Doing the right thing for the right reason.
Accountability.
Learn to lead.
My greatest takeaway is probably detachment. Detachment is a superpower. I've learned that when things aren't going right, things look bad, you detach, take a step back, look around, and it has made all the difference.
Extreme ownership has taught me to be default aggressive, to make things happen, move fast, seize initiative, mitigate risk, and solve problems.
I use the principles of extreme ownership every day at home and at work. I know they make me a more effective leader and team member.
The more you practice, the better you get, the more freedom you have to create.
Relationships.
Invaluable.
Hands down, the best training I've ever been a part of.
My favorite chapter was chapter 11, making decisions during times of uncertainty, where they spoke about at times we have to make decisions under pressure in the middle of chaos, and we don't have 100% of everything that we need to make those decisions. But if we are aware of the mission of the organization and we know our why, we can relax, look around, and make a decision based on the knowledge that we have. That was a very valuable thing that I can apply to the work that I do every day.
Extreme ownership. Own it all.
Thanks, John. So you might be asking yourself, why is every single employee in the Extreme Ownership Program? Our city employees are the backbone of our city. They keep the streets on, the water running, and provide essential services that allow our citizens to go about their day. The highest performing teams across all industries recognize the value of their employees' investment into their people. This investment is not only developing relationships and empowering employees at every level, but it is also an investment in their training and development. Too many times, we have seen departments promote highly skilled, highly technical performers into the leadership position with no training for that person. This does not set that individual, their new team, or their department up for success. In fact, it can lead to a lot of negative outcomes: low morale, poor decision-making, and subpar execution, all of which can lead to negative community impacts. Leadership is not a skill you are born with. It is a skill to be learned, just like a mechanic, accountant, or IT professional. To get better, you need to practice that skill, which means you have to learn and study to apply these principles.
Every single city employee is in the Extreme Ownership Program because our problems and issues are not unique, but how we handle them is unique. Extreme Ownership teaches our entire organization to manage these problems and to provide better services to our residents and community. Let me list a few practices we've implemented and their impact. Problem solving on all levels has been implemented. Those employees closest to the problem know the best solution, and they are empowered to take the lead on problem solving, resulting in faster resolution of issues. Teamwork in and across departments. We're working together as a team for a common goal of success and service to our residents. More support between staff means more programs and services can be provided to residents. For instance, the 100 Homes program. By removing silos, we can provide residents with more infrastructure projects, grant funding opportunities, efficient services, faster response times, and an overall better relationship with them and our stakeholders. We're working efficiently because we communicate with one another. Feedback from our residents is welcomed, shared, used for improvement. Our employees are empowered to own it all.
So how have we applied extreme ownership to the work we do? If you put our mission statement together with the principles of extreme ownership, you will see our mission can be achieved by applying these principles. First, we strive to improve the quality of life of our residents. This is the principle of teamwork, or cover and move. Teamwork is the key to success. You fail if you are not aligned and mutually supporting one another. Our department has created a culture of cover and move by developing relationships and trust among departments. By aligning our mission with others, it has allowed us to preemptively find solutions, effectively allocate resources, and empower the entire team to solve problems.
We also do this through efficient services, the principle of simple. Some leaders tend to overcomplicate their plans and communication. This leads to confusion, chaos, and bottlenecks. Extreme ownership training allows leaders to communicate in a simple, common language, allowing all members of the team to understand the mission and how it needs to be accomplished.
Next, local leadership and financial responsibility are accomplished through the principle of prioritize and execute. There is only so much time and so many resources. Are we utilizing them to their fullest? Knowing the why and the city's vision has allowed our departments to prioritize the most important task and enabled us to keep up with the city's vision. Knowing the why is critical in executing the strategy of our mission, of our city.
We build community equity by allowing others to lead. This is the principle of decentralized command. Everything we knew about leadership was wrong. It isn't about doling out work and taking employees to task. We've learned how empowering our teams leads to success. We're now able to respond quickly to changing situations, adapt to dynamic environments. We leverage the expertise and knowledge of frontline workers closest to the problem or specific task in order to make decisions and be more effective problem solvers. We've empowered everyone to be problem solvers and leaders. This fosters a strong culture and a team-first attitude. Resilience in situations where communications might be hazy, causing disruptions in productivity, lets our teams continue to operate independently, meaning maintaining essential functions by knowing the overall strategic mission of the city. Our mission statement was updated in 2021. We began our extreme ownership journey in 2022. The principles of extreme ownership can be applied anywhere and are currently being used throughout all departments in the city.
It is worth asking, what is the alternative to not investing in leadership training? Can we afford the cost of poor leadership? Without the proper development and training in their leadership position, people tend to make poor decisions, creating higher turnover among those on the teams, lower productivity, lower morale, and likely some unhappy residents. The investment in extreme ownership has taught us that by working as a team, taking responsibility for our programs and services, we are constantly reevaluating how we're doing. We're making the quality of life better for our residents. We practice humility and listening. We work to build strong relationships with one another and our resident partners. We practice discipline. We work on balance. Most importantly, we take ownership in all we do, every day, in every aspect of our lives. The majority of our employees are living this program every day. Internally, our departments conduct regular training sessions on the principles taught from this book. Our department heads and senior staff meet on a monthly basis to discuss and strategize on how to reach and teach every employee.
Women in the city of Jackson have begun their own group that meets quarterly. The group is intended to help apply extreme ownership principles to the unique challenges we have in life. Also, the city manager has a weekly brown bag lunch extreme ownership podcast discussion at which all employees are welcome.
Externally, we take advantage of online training offered by Escalante Front, which includes extreme ownership, the Assembly for Women, first responder training, and YouTube replays of information on podcasts. As a result, our collective vocabulary has changed. It's not uncommon to hear, "Yep, I'll own that," when presented with a challenge or learning opportunity. We support one another, we respect one another. And as you can see by tonight's gathering that we have, we support one another, and any one of them would be up here saying the same things that Deb and I were graciously enough afforded the opportunity to speak about. So thank you, all of you, for coming. And thank you, City Manager, for providing us with the opportunity to invest in city staff and for making our city and community a better place.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. I think we have one more short video to run.
At the end of the day, there's what works and there's what doesn't work. So extreme ownership is not just some flavor of the week or flavor of the month of a book that was read, or like, hey, I like these principles. It doesn't even matter to us. If you use the terms extreme ownership, if you use the laws of combat, none of that actually matters. There's actually what works and there's what doesn't work. If you're gonna cast blame, if you're gonna make excuses, if you're gonna point fingers, you're never gonna actually get problem solved. So if you can take these principles and apply them in your life, they'll change every aspect of your life. They'll change your leadership opportunities in business, and as you apply them to yourself, you're gonna actually be able to make yourself better and grow as a person, and you'll make everybody else around you better.
At this juncture, we've had the opportunity to teach these principles to thousands and thousands and thousands of people in leadership positions. And what we've seen over and over and over again is those leaders taking these principles, applying them inside their organization, and vastly improving the productivity, the efficiency, the effectiveness of their team and of their organization. These principles work. It's been proven over and over again. So, if you want to improve your team, if you want to improve your business, if you want to improve your station in life, take these principles and apply them in your world, and you will see improvement.
Thank you.
The intent.
Thank you. It's probably the first time you'd see a firefighter and someone from the assessor's office together presenting. I think that, again, shows the power of extreme ownership.
Any questions?
How many city employees do we have?
It's right around 220, 223, yeah.
I have a couple questions. I know when, as a council person, I get people that have problems, and the staff is very responsive when I pass them on. And probably Mike is the one that I deal with the most, unfortunately for Mike. But he is always welcoming. I never feel like I'm intruding when I talk to him. Actually, I don't feel like I'm intruding when I talk to any of the staff. So I'm hoping that the amount of concerns that I get, or the issues that I get as a staff, as a council person, are nominal compared to what the staff gets. So could they give me some examples of how extreme ownership has helped them deal with a citizen's concern? I want a specific, they don't have to tell me the citizen's name or the address, but maybe a specific instance where it has made a difference in how they responded to a citizen directly.
Trying to see who's champing at the bit to come up here. I think, generally speaking, as you guys are deciding amongst yourself who's going to come up, what you see right off the bat, the phone call comes in or email comes in, and there's a concern, automatically it's met with acceptance. Like that sounds terrible. I understand what you're saying. I see how it impacts your life in this way, and I'm not maybe they're calling the wrong department. That's probably the best way to do it. I'm not the department that traditionally needs to respond to this, but here's what I'm going to do for you, and here's how I'm going to get it done and when I'm going to get it done. And because whenever the phone call comes or an email comes in, everyone out there and everyone in the city is empowered to look around, make a call, and make something happen. So Shane, do you have something? Mike, do you have something? Or a lot of it happens with our events with trees. It could happen with signs.
I'm always chomping at the bit to talk. Good evening, council. I can say the third floor sometimes is a very contentious floor. And many people come up to this podium and have their opinion that they want to express or an experience they want to express. So taking extreme ownership, I've looked at what is being said and have invited many people to come and join me in a conversation in my office. And taking ownership of the things maybe we didn't do as well in the past and actively worked to make things better. And I think that I have actually changed the minds of some people, their impression of the third floor, through extreme ownership and through the communication process that has helped me learn about. Does that help?
I guess I can think of one right now that actually I'm personally involved with. We have a situation right now. There's a street in town that's a pretty busy street, and a person is having trouble getting out of their driveway because their driveway comes out on the descent of a hill, and there are 2 trees in the right-of-way plus a utility pole. So it makes it very difficult to back out of their driveway because they think they're clear, they back out, and all of a sudden there's a car in their trunk. It happened to me when I went to go evaluate what the constituent's concern was. And I spoke to him again, and I said, yeah, this is a problem. And we do not cut down live trees in the city. But here is an example where we're going to need to think of a different solution for this person because it is unsafe. That example I just gave happened to me. I went to the person's house, went in their driveway, backed out. All of a sudden, I had a Fiat in the bed of my truck, because it happened that fast. It was clear, then it wasn't clear, and it's just an unsafe condition. Now, we used to hide behind, we don't tear down live trees, and bye-bye, walk away. Frustrated constituent. Here, we're saying this is a problem. We see it's a problem. We have a current policy that prohibits us from really addressing this, but we need to make a change. So that's a specific example I can give you. So just instead of blaming,
so instead of just hiding behind a policy and not going any further, you or your staff take the steps necessary to see if maybe the constituent actually is correct or has a legitimate beef, and
then we see what we can do.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So the one thing that has really stood out for me, and you heard me talk about it in the video a little bit, is this concept of detaching. Now, probably most of the people in the room haven't seen it, but I have a bad temper. Oh. And so it's really.
I have not seen that. If anybody could trigger it, I probably could.
But, I came up through the water plant. So through the years, for the city of Jackson and for the city of Adrian, trained many water plant operators. Now, in doing that, you realize, first of all, they're the type of person that's attracted to doing that for a living cares. They're hyper aware of the impact that has on the public, and they're very concerned with public safety. So, and public health, so when something goes wrong, they have a tendency to scream the sky is falling and run in circles. So you have to find a way to get them to calm down, take a step back, take a deep breath, and think. That's what I used to say. I used to say, calm down and think. Through extreme ownership, we learn a very specific way to do that. You take a step back, you detach. This allows you to actually step back, take a second, take a look around, make a call, and it works. You have to practice it, but it does work. And when you're at the wastewater plant or the water plant, where we're hyper aware of how these things can affect people, this has made a huge difference, I think, in your ability to actually detach. And I go on with many other examples, but one of my guys wanted to come up and talk, so you're going to meet our assistant water plant supervisor.
My name's Dan Stewart. I'm the assistant water treatment plant supervisor. We had a scenario where one of our meter changeout crews went to a residence to change out a meter, and while they were there, the citizen had a complaint about their water quality. The meter changeout crew took the samples, brought them to the water plant without even notifying their direct supervisor, because they knew that the water plant was the one that would need to run the tests to check the water quality. And it was determined that they had a softener installed, and that was the reason that they were having water quality issues. Now, they did this all, they took their own initiative. They knew what had to happen, and they were empowered through extreme ownership to come directly to the water plant because they knew that's where it was going to end up. Through their experiences, through their knowledge, we tested the water. We were able to talk to the meter change-out crew and then talk to DPW, and we were able to resolve the issue. But it just streamlined the process quite a bit.
Perfect, Dan, thank you. I think they could go on all night, so we'll relent.
One other question is, so I've been first elected in 2011, so I have seen the silos and experienced the silos. So can you give me an example of how the silos are breaking down or have been broken down?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best example is back to more of the construction type stuff. People who pay attention to how things work at the city understand that the engineer and the engineering department build the stuff we have in the city, and DPW maintains it. Before, the left hand wasn't talking to the right hand. The people who were in charge of maintaining what's out there and put in the field, they didn't know what was spec'd. They didn't know the contractors doing it. They didn't know when things were going to be put in service. They just didn't know where things would stand. So a project would get started and finished, and you'd think everything would be working perfectly. And I can use actually Michigan Avenue, West Michigan Avenue, as a good example. While not a pure traditional City of Jackson project, extreme ownership would have helped in that situation, because as MDOT built that road, they left, I don't know, I think at the last count when I was at DPW, a dozen valves closed. That impacts the water quality, that impacts the flow, it impacts everything about the water. And that's an example of how the people who are building it aren't talking to the people who have to maintain it. And now I know these guys and their teams meet regularly. They talk through issues. They're talking about scheduling. They're trying to see what we can do as DPW to maintain, what we can do and take over in the building realm, and the engineers are helping out DPW with what they're speccing and how they can improve their operations as well. So that's just a small one. I don't know if you need anything else besides that, but I think the biggest example would be tonight's presentation. And, the assessors don't know the fire department. The fire department doesn't know the assessors, but here they are in a group talking about the experiences we have in life are all the same. And so we talk about ways that they impact us and what we can do to better ourselves and how we can improve. Employees in one department are just like employees in another department, and we've all got little things we need to work on to make things better, and sharing how we do that, and with the terminology of extreme ownership, just makes it easier.
Okay, and just two more questions. They talked about the mission, which we saw, but they also talked about the why. What was the why?
The why for what we're doing?
Mm-hmm.
The why, everything that we're doing is to make a difference in the community for the lives of the residents of Jackson.
Okay.
That's the why.
And then, so does this mean when you have your Christmas party in December that the law department isn't all going to be sitting together and the firemen aren't all going to be at their own table, that they're all going to be mixed up now?
I wish I could say yes, but a lot of people get there at different times. A lot of people ride together, so
Okay.
I know what you're saying because I look at the same thing.
Okay.
Any questions from anybody else? Okay.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, staff.
Thank you, staff, for the presentation, and thank you guys all for being here.
Yeah, it's quite impressive.
I think that's pretty powerful in itself. Okay. That brings us down to item number 6, public hearing. We have none. Brings us down to item number 7, citizens' comment. And I will start with reading the rules for speaking before the city council. Number 1, each speaker will state their name and address prior to addressing council. Number 2, each speaker is limited to up to 3 minutes during the citizen comment portion of the meeting. Council members will not debate or answer questions at this time. Number 3, Each speaker should be polite and courteous to the council and members of the public in attendance. While any speaker is free to express his or her opinion on any subject, no speaker may direct personal attacks at any member of the staff or council unrelated to the manner in which they do their job, perform their duties. Use obscene language while addressing the city council or engage in disruptive or disorderly behavior during a council meeting. Number 4, should any speaker cause a breach of the peace through their conduct, the mayor may declare the speaker out of order. Number 5, if a speaker is declared out of order by the mayor and refuses to cease and desist from disruptive or disorderly conduct, the mayor may order the person removed from the meeting. And number 6, each speaker may speak once under public comment and may not yield their time to others. Shantae Shelton.
Hi, my name is Shantae Flemister Shelton. I live at 200 Stewart Avenue, Apartment A. So I have a question regarding homes that are vacated by the city inspectors. What emergency resources are set aside for people who are displaced or dislocated because of a landlord-city situation? All of the avenues that everyone's told me to try, Lifeways 211, Community Action Agency, going down and filling out emergency housing. And as far as I've gotten is 5 days at a hotel. My kids' school said they'll be able to help out with gas cards. So I'm just trying to figure out, in cases like this where there's no money available in the city of Jackson to help anybody homeless or any housing, are there funds set aside for people who lose their home because it's vacated?
Anton La? What's the last name?
Last name La.
La,
Yeah.
okay. Want to make sure I was saying it right.
No, you're good. I get it a lot. I have a weird name. But I would like to thank the Lord for blessing us with the introduction of this perspective today with extreme ownership. I'm familiar with those principles, and I hope that we really take those to heart, because I'm sure I'm not the only person that has concerns and criticisms of things that come out of this body, and I know you guys do your best, but there are a lot of really concerning things in this city, and sorry, I'm going to try and keep calm a little bit, but there's a lot that bothers me. There's a lot that's going on where most people don't have time to come to these meetings to see what's going on. We really trust you guys to do your best in running the city. You know, we're just trying to survive and live our lives, and it's getting harder and harder out there because expenses are rising like high tides, and it just feels like it's getting piled on. Even things that come out of this body, we're raising water rates this year, next year, the next 4 years. We're raising property taxes as high as we legally can for the next 2 years. Tax assessments are hitting people so hard, they're in tears at these meetings, afraid they're going to lose their homes. And we don't seem to care enough to look at and detach, as he mentioned, to practice the detachment and see what impacts are our decisions having as a city, as a city council, because good intentions are great, good people are great, but we don't benefit from those as citizens, but we do suffer the consequences of poor leadership. And I'm not trying to call people out on that, but we do need to think things through when it comes to things like trying to monopolize trash services in our city, put people out of business, out of jobs, to take away options from people. You know, it doesn't even consider the things like people that are low waste producers splitting their bills, trying to just save because they're on fixed incomes. There's a lot of things that go into that beyond just price. And it's kind of naive to assume that price is the only indicator. If you talk to these local haulers, they'll tell you people are flocking away from these big corporations every week because they have poor quality. You can see the ratings online. They're trash, like no pun intended. But they're not even efficiently picking up the trash of the customers they already have. And I don't think that making those companies larger is a good decision. I think that that's kind of counterintuitive. I think people wouldn't be going with local haulers if there wasn't a need for it. I also see a lot of these people think about property taxes only affecting property owners, but they don't. We have a lot of renters in this city, and your rent goes up when property taxes go up. They don't only affect homeowners, and those of us who have strived and saved and tried to own a home, is getting more and more expensive. And I do feel for the people with the tree issues, because I have had live trees that were refused to be cut down that have fallen repeatedly on my property and have cost me hundreds of dollars just in the few years that I've lived here. So I think when we're making decisions, that good intentions are great, but detachment and consideration of the potential consequences is more important. And so I really hope that people consider these things when people are struggling with expenses already.
Thank you, Mr. Wine. William Hastings.
Yeah, I just ask you put that up so it's visible. William Hastings, 1231 Highland Boulevard. Okay, it's time for a lightning round election update. Mayor Mahoney will not be debating his challenger, who duly won his spot on the ballot in the August primary. This one's real simple. An elected official who cannot field tough questions, I'm over here, sir, about his record in a public venue obviously wants to avoid scrutiny. For example, Paula Autry, a very wealthy woman who gave $50,000 to one of the mayor's nonprofits, was just awarded rights to purchase 8 lots in the MLK corridor to develop apartments. Everyone who lives in South and East Jackson really needs to understand that the MLK corridor money that is being spent in their name is not going to people who live in Section 8 housing in South Jackson. It's going to very rich people who live in 4,000 square foot houses in Grass Lake. On to Ward 4. Is Connor Wood here tonight? Oh, of course not. Let the record show that on July 1st, 2017, a man canvassing his neighborhood, gathering political signatures, was stalked and harassed by a young man named Connor Wood. Police incident report number 497-19570-17 was filed on July 2nd, 2017 with Officer Hawley of the JPD. Mr. Wood was very unhappy that another citizen was gathering signatures for a cause he didn't approve of, so Connor changed direction to follow the first man down McBride Street, to Harwood, to Garfield, from house to house to house, sometimes standing within 3 feet of him as he tried to speak with voters. Connor was asked twice to desist, the second time being told, quote, "You are harassing me. Get the hell out of here and out of my way." But he continued to stalk the much older man until he finally took refuge in a neighbor's garage. Quote, "I definitely felt threatened and to a certain extent fearful of physical harm. After all, he followed me all the way from McBride Street to Garfield," end quote. The man being harassed was 70 years old in 2017. Connor Wood was then a man in his early 20s. A complaint was also filed with the clerk in the Elections Division, citing a violation of election campaign law, being harassment and or intimidation of opposing campaign workers. Connor Wood is unfit to sit on any city commission, let alone the election commission, which he abused to game the race in the 4th Ward. You all know that too, though you're afraid to say anything. Barring a public apology to the 4th Ward, the city council, and the entire city of Jackson, he is unfit, 100% unfit to sit on city council as well.
John C. King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. John King, 203 3rd Street here in the city. The residents of the 4th Ward need to ask a very important question. Who is Connor Michael Motsatson Wood? For one thing, he is a self-described socialist Democrat. I first became aware of him in early 2017 when he was Derek Dobie's behind-the-scenes guy as they pushed non-discrimination ordinance regarding transgender and gay people in public accommodations like restrooms and locker rooms. Later in the year, I was made aware that Consumers Energy and their legal team was very involved in the behind-the-scenes machinations with Derek Dobie's, Connor Wood, and others, with referendum petitions corruptly being thrown out by a judge who was the nephew of Consumers Energy's Deputy General Counsel. Later that year, Consumers Energy powers that be generously contributed to election candidates that work with them on the NDO. Along with all the union money that came in from around the country, Team Dobies took control of the city council. Being Team Dobies' top general and Derek Dobies' right-hand man, Connor Wood was given lots of power while barely being able to legally drink. This included some of the most important positions on boards, commissions, and committees in the city. It allowed him to gerrymander Laura Schlechte out of the 4th Ward so she couldn't run for her seat again and not be a threat to him as he comes out from the dark and runs for the 4th Ward Council position. Many of his moves were done with the purpose of benefiting his party from the national level down to the local level, as well as his employer, even if it was detrimental to the city of Jackson. He hopes to do things like forcing lighted signs of churches and schools to be turned off when it is dark outside, put speed bumps in city streets to slow traffic, bring rent control to Jackson, enforce a single refuge hauler system with unionized employees on residents and businesses. This past weekend, Connor Wood posted about the need for the council to find ways to increase the capacity usage of the city's water plant. Hello, that's what the old Kinder Morgan plant contract with Consumers Energy is for. The arrangement Consumers Energy had with Team Dobies has consumers flying the gay pride flag while their bottom line is benefiting by the millions at the expense of the rest of the city's water customers. Now current Team Dobies members running for election are using deception and lies like stating the water rates are due to service line replacements when the great majority of the increases are due to them letting consumers out of the contract.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Voters need to remember this November.
Thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Jeannie Brown.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Brown. I'm from Summit Township. And I have a story because I've been door knocking for some candidates in the November 7th race. And my story isn't as violent as some of these other candidates, harassment and things like that, but we were door knocking and Will Forgrave was outside and he asked for his opponent's yard signs, 10 of them. And I know that he's not violent, but that's very deceitful. And if he's going to be deceitful to his constituents, he's going to be deceitful in all his actions. Because when you prove that you're a liar and a cheat, you are. But I just wanted to say, good luck, because you're going to need it. Steve Answini is running. He is the best candidate. He gets rid of waste or fat of companies that he's been working with. He works all over the country. He works out of the country, but now since COVID, he's been staying in the U.S. And he's been working with Tripp, Phil Tripp, and he's cut 400% off his bottom line in the last 3 years, and he said that he's just scratching the surface. He goes over all the records. He can find out where all the fat is, and I think he really could turn this city around if he's elected. To go to look at what the city has in their money management plans. So I just say good luck to everybody.
John Wilson.
Good evening, John Wilson, 1045 South Durant Street, Jackson, Michigan. I'll start out with a quote from Extreme Ownership. Accept the criticism, own it. A couple of years ago, one of Mayor Mahoney's nonprofits, the Launchpad, received a $50,000 donation from Paula Autry, who at the time was CEO of Henry Ford Allegiance Health Systems. The Launchpad is a Mahoney-created nonprofit that focuses on black youth entrepreneurship. According to media reports, Paula Autry abruptly left Henry Ford Hospital to pursue other opportunities. Last month, City Council gave Ms. Autry that opportunity when Mayor Mahoney and City Council voted to give Ms. Autry an option agreement to purchase 8 city-owned parcels located on the MLK Junior Corridor. Months ago, I emailed members of City Council, the city manager, and city attorney to look into possible violation of the city's charter regarding conflicts of interest and other violations with Mayor Mahoney's nonprofits and City Hall and other City Hall business. I received no response from anyone. City Council, City Attorney, City Manager. With Mahoney receiving $50,000 from Ms. Autry for his nonprofit and his vote approving this option agreement, this is an egregious violation of the Jackson City Charter. If this isn't enough for City Council and the media to begin asking questions, I don't know what is. It is kind of funny, isn't it, Freddie? It is, yeah. Okay. While we have lawlessness taking place in Freddie Dancy's ward and throughout the rest of the city, we shouldn't expect lawlessness taking place here at City Hall on Mr. Freddie Dancy's watch. Thank you.
Jerry Montgomery.
Good evening. My name is Gerald Montgomery. I live at 341 Hill Street, Jackson, Michigan. I think you might have a lead in getting rid of some of the homeless, if you follow my drift. Is all you got to do is contact them and see who has family or close friends out of state that they want to go visit. Give them a one-way ticket and $25 to eat on, and I'll bet you get some takers. That will get rid of a few of them. And I don't know, I got this in the mail. I showed it to. It's a joke, I think, don't you?
I didn't send it.
Well, the
But-
little postage stamp up here in the corner says paid for by the city of Jackson.
No, it says that paid for by the committee to.
No, right there, that little postage.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
that's-
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you want to step down and talk to him
No,
about
that's
that,
fine.
you
I was
are
just pointing to him.
more than welcome to.
It says it was paid for by a non-prosperity in Lansing, Michigan, not authorized by any candidate, not authorized by you or anybody else. But it says City of Jackson. Look at it. That's pathetic. And as far as this water bill goes, it's outrageous. So that's all I got to say. I'm sorry. But good luck to all of you.
Jennifer Bittinger.
Good evening. Wow, some really great things to hear from other people campaigning and
and a lot going on. I've heard a lot tonight. Thank you for everyone who's spoken up. I did want to take a moment to thank Shane Laporte. His advertisement for this extreme ownership was right there, because he has been very helpful to us as landlords, most recently working with us on a recent rental property, so I appreciate that. And also the water department, we had a good experience with them recently, so we're thankful for, these good relationships we're having. I obviously very much in protest of the water tax increase. Oh my goodness, and this has affected us as homeowners in Jackson, the city. We sadly had to say we can no longer, we made all our tenants transfer to themselves and taking care of it, and they are very unhappy. Their whole, cost of living just shot way up with these recent tax increases for the water. We've got to continue to keep helping our businesses and our citizens with this economy. So we got to think of ways that are working towards that goal. I'm not sure about this extreme ownership thing, just hearing about it tonight. The only caution I have is this last line about how we apply extreme ownership to the work we do. It's like added "and community equity." Don't know what that means, but that's a red flag of certain things being instilled into our, training everybody within the city on wrong principles. So I had a concern. I don't know what that's all about, but I've heard so many good things about the program. So, that was my one concern. Then finally, I got a minute. Just wanted to thank Arlene for that prayer she read. And this is something that's just been striking me, and I just want to spend the rest of my time praying, if you don't mind. Our Father, I thank you so much for this opportunity to meet with our leaders. I pray that you would bless everyone here, bless them with wisdom. We ask blessing on our upcoming elections and all the decisions that need to be made. And we pray that you'd help us to repent of our wrongdoings and to seek your truths and your ways. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Thank you.
Peter Bormuth.
Peter Bournemouth, 142 West Pearl Street. I want to speak to the single hauler issue, give some people some historical background. Back in the late 1980s, the county of Jackson decided to build the Jackson County Resource Recovery Facility, a Class II waste incinerator. And to do that and make it financially feasible, they passed a tipping ordinance that said that all waste in Jackson County had to be taken to that facility. Well, that facility had the third highest tipping fees in the state of Michigan. And the waste haulers passed those fees on to the customers. So that's the background as to why we have such high fees, because the government at the county created a monopoly. Mayor Mahoney was not there at the time. This is no shade on him. He had absolutely nothing to do with it. Then, when that happened, a solid waste planning committee was created, and there was some expression that they wanted to see that a rebate, a lower prices would come back to the citizens. This didn't happen because of the ineffective leadership of the two environmentalists on the committee, Mark Muick and Peg Clevenger. So that's where we were as far as historically what happened. Now, the solution that's being proposed, a single hauler, is creating another monopoly. I hope you understand that monopolies are never good for the people. They have never been good for people. The oil monopoly, not good for the people. The consumer's energy monopoly, not good for the people. The, trash tipping ordinance monopoly that required everything to be taken to the county, not good for the people. This will also not be good for the people. Will Foregrave said, well, I want to see the bids first. Well, of course the first bid is going to come in low, Will. That's how they're going to take over the entire city waste stream. And the intent behind this was always to help Derek Dobies unionize Jackson's waste stream. Now, I want to tell you that Emmons is not a union company, that Modern is not a union company, that even Granger is not a union company. The only union company is Republic. And they were the ones who were given the contract last time by the city. So that was 2013. So let me read a few things real quickly. In Las Vegas, Republic Services threatened almost 150 customer homes with foreclosure for overdue trash bills since the start of 2020, demanding both owed money and company attorney fees. In Indianapolis, Indiana customers of Republic filed a class action lawsuit against the company, alleging unfair business practice, including charging them for 2 weeks when Republic did not pick up trash and billing the customers for recycling services the Republic failed to provide. In San Diego in 2000.
Thank you, Mr. Bormuth. No, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I wasn't behind the dais at the time. Appreciate you, brother. I think that concludes our citizens' comments. Brings us down to item number 8, petitions and communications from city staff and other governmental entities to be accepted and placed on file. Looking for a motion and support for item 8.1, City of Jackson, Michigan financial statements as of and for the 2 months ended August 31st, 2023.
I'd like to make a motion that we place 8.1 through 8.6 on file.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I'd like to make
A motion to accept and place all 6 items.
on file instead of individually.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion?
No.
Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote.
Can we take a roll call? Or mine's not coming up. There we go.
And the motion passes unanimously, placing all 6 items on file. And bringing us down to our consent calendar, looking for a motion and support to approve the consent calendar.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimously. Brings us down to other business. Item 10.1, looking for a motion, item 10.1, recommendations for an ad hoc committee tasked with appointed official review format.
I'll make a motion that this get postponed to the next meeting.
Just a question, just curious how progress is coming along. Say that again.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
We've met, that's fine. We've met and pulled some stuff together, but the last meeting just got a little jumbled. So we have to reschedule.
Okay. So postponed until
The next
meeting. Okay. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. Brings us down, passes unanimously, brings us down to 10.2. Looking for a motion and support to approve the second reading and final adoption of ordinance 2023-10, amending section 4.4 of chapter 4 to accurately identify the prohibition of keeping of venomous reptiles.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported.
I just have one quick question. Since it was a change of one word, did we really need to put that on the agenda? Wouldn't that have been considered a minor change? Or was it because of the definition of the word?
Any ordinance amendment that changes the substantive language of an ordinance would require a vote of council. And even though this is a change in one word, it does, the nomenclature is such that it required a vote of council to make sure that you were understanding what was now being prohibited.
Okay, thanks.
Seeing or hearing no further comments from council, clerk will tally and display the vote. And the motion carries unanimously. Brings us down to 10.3, looking for a motion of support to approve the second reading and final adoption of ordinance number 2023-11, amending section 14-42.1 of Chapter 14, Article 3, Division 2 of the City of Jackson Code of Ordinances to specify that issued certificates of compliance are transferable.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimously, takes care of all of our other business, brings us down to new business. Looking for a motion of support to accept the bid by R.W. Mercer for the replacement of windows at Fire Station Number 2 located at 1906 South Milwaukee Street for $86,957. It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. .1 passes unanimous, brings us to 11.2. Looking for a motion of support to amend the 2023-2024 budget to reflect the additional revenue of $51,526 and additional expenditures by the Jackson Police Department of $31,316 by the Jackson County Sheriff's Office of $20,210.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimously. Brings us down to item 11.3. Looking for a motion and support for the traffic control orders 2390 and 2391, Euclid Street at Kent Street and Mansion Street at Kent Street.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Passes unanimous, brings us to 11.4. Looking for a motion and support to accept grant funds from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources in the amount of $300,000.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. I was gonna say, we don't want to take this money. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. passes unanimous. Brings us down to 11.5, looking for a motion and support for the approval of the purchase of 2 LifePak 15 monitors to be used on frontline apparatus by the Jackson Fire Department. The total purchase amount is $104,385.76. Will be partially offset by opioid settlement revenue as shown in the fiscal year 23-24 budget and approved by City Council.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion. Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimously, brings us down to 11.6, looking for a motion and support for the approval of Amendment 3 to the 2020 water main engineering contract with Hubble, Roth, and Clark Incorporated of Jackson, Michigan at a not-to-exceed cost of $559,500 and authorization for the city manager and city engineer to execute the appropriate documents.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimous. Brings us down to 11.7. Looking for a motion and support for change order 1 to the wastewater treatment plant and Myrtle Life Station improvements with Haney General Contracting Incorporated for an increase amount of $163,502.57 and authorize the city manager and director of public works to execute the appropriate documents.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimous. Brings us down to 11.8, looking for a motion and support to approve the first reading and advance to a second reading / final adoption of ordinance amending Note 9 of Section 27-67.01B1 of the sewer use ordinance, correcting the discharge amount subject to surcharge.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
Could we get some background on this change, what it's actually?
Don't get mad.
It's pretty simple. It's easy to explain.
Don't get mad.
Good evening. This was a typo. That's all it was. This is really simple. So our attorney that deals with our wastewater law, whenever our sewer use ordinance, you guys passed it, this council passed it, and then he read it and he called me up and said, well, there's a typo. We have to fix this. It should have read, I think, 160, and it was, in other places in the sewer use ordinance, it was right. It's just correcting a typo. For surcharge, for total suspended solids, that's all it is.
Okay, so the charges for everything over the 160?
This isn't really going to affect the residents. It's a surcharge rate in place for our industrial users in townships and stuff. It's not really, the residents aren't even tested for this.
Oh,
So,
so it's the
yeah,
outside users?
yeah.
Big industrial users, outside the city users. So the plant can treat what's coming in. It doesn't go over what the plant can handle. That's an aspect of this.
Okay.
Have we been testing and using that incorrect number
in the meantime? No? Okay, so it's not gonna change how we operate.
Well, we're still in the process of implementing the changes from the 2 years ordinance. Right, yeah.
Okay.
That's my expertise. Right.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure I note that, just for record purposes, the section number is 2776. I think I might have said 67. Just want to make sure I corrected that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. All right. Item passes unanimously, brings us down to 11.9, Fifth Ward appointment process. Mr. Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, so let me, for the public's benefit and for the benefit of council, give you a brief overview and I guess go back to the Wayback Machine in November of 2020 when the voters of the city amended our charter to deal with appointment vacancies and how they'd be filled. Now that Councilman Bunnell has resigned effective September 30, City Council under the charter, Section 7.10, has 60 days to fill that vacancy. So a decision point or something to consider this evening is how long council would like to keep the application process open for. Keeping in mind that after tonight's meeting, you have one more meeting this month and two more regular meetings, the two in November, by which to fill the vacancy. It's got to be filled by November 29th at the latest. So the amendment that was approved by the governor's office, the attorney general, and ultimately the voters of the city said that when this vacancy ultimately gets filled, the person who fills that appointment holds that seat until the next general election for which a primary can be held. That, of course, is next year's August presidential primary, and then they and whomever would submit nominating petitions would also be on the ballot for that November race, and the appointee or any other challengers would be presumably on the ballot, and the winner of that race would then hold the seat, the Fifth Ward seat, until the end of Councilwoman Bunnell's natural term. She was elected in 2021, so her term is up in November of 2025. That is our last odd year election, because council also knows we legislatively amended to switch to even year elections. So in sum, you've got 60 days to appoint someone to this vacancy. After that, whomever that is or any other candidates that wish to throw their hat in the ring would be on the ballot, presuming they submit the qualifying nominating petitions in the August primary next year for the November general, and then they would be again on the ballot and go through that same process for 2025. Whomever wins that race in 2025 gets an extra year on their term and would serve until 2030 to be in conformance with the switch to the even year elections. So I know that's as clear as mud, but that's a synopsis of where we're at in terms of the steps forward all the way through the upcoming elections. But the decision point now for council is to decide, I believe, how long you want to keep the application process open, and then any other rules you want to set or parameters regarding that appointment. So if you have any other questions, happy to answer them, but that's a basic overview of the process going forward.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. Attorney, the person that ends up being appointed will be on the ballot for next year automatically, or do they have to apply again?
They would also, just like any other potential candidate, would have to file nominating petitions that meet the requisite requirements that the clerk will determine, and then they would then assuming they did that, would be on the August primary and then the November general.
Okay. I misunderstood, so.
So if only 2 people run after the appointment, let's say the person who gets appointed and someone else decides to run, then there's no primary, there's just the general. But if 3 people, then there is a primary, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
So the first question is, we did send notice, like via social media and other ways that the application process is now open for the 5th ward seat.
That is correct, and we have received 3 applications so far. So to Matt's point before, there's a couple of things that need to be done tonight. First and foremost would be to put an end date on that application process.
When did that notice go out?
It was about a week and a half ago, roughly, Mr. Mayor, from my recollection.
Yeah, Tuesday.
We have 2 regularly scheduled meetings in November, right?
Correct.
One more point of clarification I forgot to mention, which is the rationale behind why the charter was amended. And it was done such that if a candidate were to be appointed after a vacancy, say 1 month into someone's 4-year term, that candidate would not hold the seat for the remaining 3 years and 11 months, but they would have to run for election at the next election. So in other words, the voters would get a choice as soon as possible in the next general election and primary.
So we're looking for end date right now.
Yeah, I think that an end date is what we need so we can like put it out there so people know like, hey, this is coming up. I think a schedule for how you handle the process can come at a later date if special meetings are required, if you feel like doing that, or if you feel like handling it at traditional business meetings, indicate so, because staff can plan around our business and make sure we keep things light and tight on that night. But yeah, for what I need, right, and if you were to consider special meetings, Lisa can work with everybody to figure out the best dates and times for that. It doesn't need to quite be we don't need to make that dish right here. Like, we can settle on dates by just talking to everybody individually, but it'd be helpful if we can put an end date on those applications. I think the potential applicants would love to know that if they're considering how fast they need to move.
And I'm going to abstain from this conversation because I may put in an application. And I will abstain from the vote for the very same reason.
What's been the process in the past? Is there a certain number of days that the application has been open in the past?
I feel like it's been around the 30-day mark. A little bit more than, maybe a traditional job posting, but, not forever.
So if it went out the 3rd, 30 days from that would be
Second.
the 2nd of
November
the following
2nd.
month, 2nd of November?
Yeah, and really, if you weren't interested in having any special meetings, you could leave it right up until that first meeting in November to give more time if you were concerned about that.
Mr. Mayor, would you use your microphone, please?
Thank you, Mr. Bormu. Is there an interview process after we get the applications?
Traditionally, that's what council's been done. They've reviewed applicants and then brought people in for interviews and made your own determinations. There's a historical set of interview questions that we can share with everybody. Obviously, it's the will of this council what you want to ask. It's just we have to make sure it's consistent across the board with each applicant. Obviously, the answers will lead you into asking different follow-up questions, but the basic questions need to be the same.
So then if we backtrack, can you tell me again when we need to have somebody appointed by? What's the 60-day mark?
November 29th would be the last date, and the 2 council meetings in November are the 14th and the 28th.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know why I pulled the website, but the previous appointment, can we just take a quick look at that to see what we did when Karen first came on board? The timeline, as far as, we put it out there. I don't know if we want to put it out to the end of October, or if we want to do that based on our meeting date, so that we can, our next meeting date, which would be before the end of October, that would give us enough time to set up the interviews. Because I thought the interviews were done ahead of council meetings or something like
I think
that.
you guys had you had a special council meeting. It started a little earlier because it can take a minute. So I think there's one special meeting to consider, to do interviews. I think the decision came at a regular council meeting.
I think I just ran across it. I was doing something on the site.
Was there ever a vote to narrow the applicant pool for interviews, or was the applicant pool so low that wasn't necessary? I can't remember.
I believe the applicant pool was small enough, but that was a question I was thinking tonight. If there was an overwhelming amount of applicants, would you guys do that? I don't know what the ins and outs of that were, and I don't even know if Matt could weigh in on it, especially on the spot.
My recollection is that all the applicants were interviewed, but this was 2021, kind of still in the throes of COVID, so I'm trying to recall at that point, even if we had a virtual meeting at that point. But I do believe all the candidates that applied were interviewed.
It was 30 days from the date we put it out there.
So I think, I would be fine with even doing either the 6th or the 7th. That gives us a week time to notice the people who applied for interviews, and then we could hold interviews on the 14th, giving us an additional 2 weeks after interviews to kind of think about those interviews, and then have a decision made by the 28th.
So under that scenario, I'm just throwing a hypothetical out there, kind of what I was alluding to earlier. If we have 10 people apply for this, we're going to interview 10 people, or are we going to narrow that down first at a meeting? Is what I'm asking, and we should probably buy ourselves some time to do that if necessary.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think we should cut off the date more close to October. I'm looking at the 20th, so we have time. The applicants, I think, whoever apply for the position, they have to get vetted, make sure they, in the Fifth Ward, they've been there long enough, and also they have no outstanding things with the city, so they get vetted by staff. Then once that, I don't know how we can, go by and looking at applications. I just think whomever apply, as long as they're good and they've been vetted, I think everybody should be interviewed. But I think we may be cutting it close, because that's going to be 5. We're going to have to decide, 3-2, but they need at least 3 votes. So I think we're really going to be cutting it close if we move it to November 6 and 7 and cut that date off, and then trying to come back. What's the 14th? That's the first meeting in November. Mm-hmm. I think we're cutting it real close. I just think we're going to be cutting it close with that. I know no one likes special meetings, the special council meetings, but it depends on the number of applicants we get. 3, 4, 5, I think there's no problem. But if we get 10, then I think it's hard to have a meeting. We have to have a meeting early, like 4 o'clock or something like that with council. That's just mine.
I tend to agree that setting an earlier date gives us more leeway, depending on how many applicants we get. So earlier than the 6th, which is clear as mud, but.
Yeah, I would support that too.
So you guys are proposing that we evaluate or do interviews at which meeting, though?
It would still be the meeting of the 14th, unless we have 10. I mean, they take time.
Yeah.
I think it's
They're
one of the.
not,
Well, that's why I'm.
necessarily 10, 15 minutes. I
So if-
mean,
There's no way we're not having a special meeting, I don't think.
Right.
I mean,
So if
no
that's
matter
the-
how you slice it, we're gonna have to do interviews at some point, or we're gonna have to winnow it down or have that conversation. And I think buying ourselves some time to have that special meeting means having a deadline of late October to schedule it, to legally post for it, to have it.
I think, I think the application should be open at least 30 days. At least 30 days. Closing it on the 20th is really, really soon.
When did we post it, did you say?
The 3rd.
The 3rd.
Okay.
October. So November 2nd?
yeah, that's what I said.
That's what,
November
yeah,
2nd
if you were
is actually
30 days.
Exactly 30 days out.
At that point, in my humble opinion, you might as well just make the 3rd, because if you say the 2nd, they're like, oh, that's Friday, it stands for week. They're gonna maybe miss, it's just how people's brains work, like.
Is that a Friday or Thursday?
The 2nd is Thursday.
It's a, oh, it's a Friday?
So that's what I'm saying, just.
Okay.
Yeah,
just make the third.
Thursday, I mean, Friday's good.
Yep.
I mean, that's my,
Friday's
Just from doing that, having job applications put out there and how people think sometimes, or even our RFP, that we did some stuff. on.
November 2nd is a Thursday?
Yep, November 2nd.
Yeah, that's what I was, okay.
so the 3rd.
Just go to the 3rd.
Oh, I see what you mean. So you're saying go with the 3rd?
Go with the 3rd.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
My humble opinion. Doesn't matter for anybody.
Do we need a motion for that? I move that we set the deadline for applications to be November 3rd for 5th Ward Council applicants.
Support.
Do we want to amend it to 5 p.m.?
Yeah.
Close of business, yeah.
Close of business. Yeah.
I support that.
Okay. So there's a motion on the floor for applications for 5th Ward councilperson appointment to be closed on November 3rd, 5 p.m. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote.
Not in there.
Passes 5-1, and that just leads to just one more question. So then will we like kind of figure the rest of the process out, interviews and whatnot, at our next meeting?
Yeah, I actually think that's a pretty reasonable approach. You got the 24th as our next meeting. I can report to you guys how many applicants we get. If it's overwhelming, then you know we're gonna need to do a special meeting. If it's in the manageable number, of course, that's for you guys to decide. You can continue have with the regular meeting schedule. But I think like doing it this way, by kind of taking a wait and see approach, kind of a slow, not a slow, but a incremental approach to this might be smart.
Okay.
Okay. My only other ask would just be for us to at least have another post on our social media, and I'm sure MLive would probably take care of itself.
Yeah, with you guys putting a date on it, it deserves us to freshen up our promotion of it and putting it out there. So we'll have Aaron do that, and hopefully the news medias pick up all those things, and it'll definitely be available on our website.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the item? Okay, seeing or hearing none, we will move on to city council member comments and start with Laura. Councilmember Schlechte.
I want to thank your staff for putting that presentation on for extreme ownership. Answered a lot of questions and answered some concerns that I had, and so it meant a lot to me to see that, and I'm disappointed you didn't loop the council into the training. But hey, whatever.
It's never too late. We'll come for this Friday, where we'll be talking about Jocko Podcast episode 373. So listen to it and come to the brown bag lunch we have at 11:30 in this room.
Does that mean you have to bring your own bag, or you bring?
No, you bring your own lunch.
I don't think I have any brown bags. anyhow.
Come on now, we're generous, but like.
Not that generous. Okay, well, you'd have to refresh my memory on that meeting on Friday. Anyhow, I would like to, I hear the complaint from people that the city raises taxes. And I want to make it clear again that the city has no control over the raising of your property taxes. That is a state item. It is in proposal, it's Proposal A of 1994. You can look it up. And it is completely out of the control of the city of Jackson. In fact, our millage has gone down a little bit. And so compared to other places, we have gone down. Even though it's small, you'll see that continually go down because of our Act 345. So make sure you get your facts right when you complain to us. There is an Elections Commission meeting on Friday, is that right, Andrea? At 9 o'clock? 8:30. Thank you for posting that. I think that's the first time I've seen that posted. And my only question on that is, did we fill that seat do we have 2 active citizens in that seat now? So is it just the appointed officials that are there on that commission?
There's 1 citizen and then the appointed officials.
Oh, okay. But that person has or has not historically shown up for meetings?
There should be 2 citizens.
Right.
And the 3 appointed officials.
Uh-huh.
There's 1 citizen who shows up regularly.
Okay.
And then the 3 appointed officials.
Okay. And where is that meeting?
10th floor conference room.
Okay, thank you. I also wanted to make a comment about the garbage. I want to call it not a one hauler system, because I think it could be it could be done in a different fashion, but a one garbage system is what I will call it. I would like to point out to people that we were promised as citizens that when the incinerator closed, that our garbage bills would go down, and they never went down. Never went down. We were promised that. So I would like to ask citizens to, nothing is a foregone conclusion, but I would hope that people would be open-minded to hear what a one garbage system would look like and what it would cost and the benefits that it could create for this community. There's tons, there are far more benefits, in my own humble opinion. So I hope that in the future, when that conversation comes up, that people are open-minded before they make their decision and don't make a decision based on one fact, because I keep hearing about the small hauler being ousted out of their job because something may change. I'm a business person, and when the laws in my profession change, they don't stop and say, oh, wait, it's going to affect Laura Schlechte, so maybe we shouldn't do it. So I think we have to look at that issue as the benefits for the entire community. There is a very cool festival this weekend called the ETA, I got to look it up. Jackie had to text me. Emerging Technology and Art Festival. And if you go downtown now, you'll even see some of the installations going up. Starting at 3 o'clock, there's a lot of fun things to do. I would encourage people to come down and see what's happening. And then last, but certainly not least, I would like the council to join in with me on this one. Happy birthday to you. This is for Jonathan. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jonathan. Happy birthday to you. So it's easy for me to remember because it's the same day as my granddaughter, who will turn 2 instead of
Well, thank
a
you
few
very
years
much.
older.
That means a lot. It's my bonus daughter Avery's birthday today. Actually, my birthday's tomorrow, but I appreciate it so much. Don't sing any more songs. We sang to her twice today. So many cha-cha-chas. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Forgrave.
I would just like to say that briefly, if your political campaign is so disorganized that you knock your own opponent's door, that I might add is made of plexiglass, and behind it is 100 Forgrave for Council yard signs sitting in plain view, asking for their support. I think you deserve everything that's coming to you. And in this case, what was coming to you was having 10 of your own yard signs collecting dust in my garage, which, in the grand scheme of things, is harmless fun. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Vice Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do want to thank from Jonathan and the staff presenters and all the staff that came out tonight. I really appreciate and respect that presentation we received tonight. I think it was an awesome job, and it was really nice to see everyone here today, along with the staff under the department heads. So just much appreciation. It was well received. And that will be it for me.
Eastside.
Thank you. So we have a special event going on Thursday. It's put on by the Racial Equity Commission. Ooh. It's called Creating Spaces for Equity Community Outreach Forum. It's going to be from 6 to 8 at the library downtown in Carnegie Branch. So you don't have to sign up. So if those who want to come out and be part of that, please come out, enjoy, have food, wiggity hands, a lot of food, a lot of 6 to 8. So, yeah.
Refreshments at 5:30.
Yeah, starts doors open at 5:30.
I got the invitation.
Okay.
It's on my schedule.
Okay, well, good for you. So, thank you so much. Why y'all got me talking?
Councilmember Gunn.
I just want to echo what Councilmember Robinson said. I really appreciated that presentation, and I know I got a book, and I don't always have time to read lately, but I will say it actually got me excited to read that book. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the presentation and putting some context to it. So, and thank you again for all the staff. It was nice to see everybody.
Right. Okay. Man, I want to start by just saying thank you for the prayers. Because prayer changes things, and I truly and honestly believe in the power of prayer. So appreciate the prayers. I just want to start with that. She left, but my girlfriend for the last 22 years, wife for the last 13, was just here, and I just wanted to, again, say happy anniversary to her. When you do public service work in more than just one capacity, you often miss the opportunity to celebrate occasions like this. So as many times as I have the opportunity to publicly thank her for standing by my side, I'm going to do so. I'm sure she's somewhere watching the rest of this meeting. I appreciate you. I appreciate the person that you are and the life that we have built together with the 5 daughters that we have, and all of our family. So I think a better term for the discussion is solid waste removal. That's what I've been calling it, because who knows if it's going to be one single hauler or 10 or 50. But I do want to make special mention that for the last, I've been back in Jackson since late 2008. I have used a small hauler since 2008. So I think actions speak much louder than words for those individuals who are portraying their comments as if they are truly interested in protecting the interest of those small haulers that they are speaking about. And I challenge them to back up their words with some action and show me the receipts, literally. Who do you pay your trash to? Because I've used a small hauler literally since I've been back from college in the city of Jackson, Michigan. I have used a small hauler. So the last thing that I want to see happen is for a small hauler who is just trying to take care of their families be put out of business. That is just the bottom line. However, I do think that we can use our collective buying power to lower the cost of what we pay for trash service. I have said this over and over again. I said this when I asked for our environmental commission, who spent 2 years researching and putting a presentation together around this subject, when I asked for that presentation to be brought here to council. And I know it's a scary, sensitive subject. And unfortunately, right now we are in what I have been telling people is the weirdest time of year that you could ever experience, which is election time, where people do anything and everything they can to fearmonger people into voting for them, opposed to voting for the individuals who have been and are doing the work. So it's unfortunate. In a lot of ways, it's kind of unfair, because to me, the truth doesn't need any defense, and a lie has to be told over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and sent in the mail to people via letter in all kinds of different ways. I'm sorry, you had your 3 minutes. This is my time.
Get some class. Get some class.
Oh, I've displayed nothing but class, Mr. King, but thank you. Thank you, and have a good night if you don't want to hear the rest of what I'm saying. I appreciate you, though. So I think that you should come with factual information. If you're going to come with information, you should come with factual information like others have already stated. Come with factual information. If nothing else, that is the most that you can do, is come with factual information. I want to say thank you to our city manager for finding value and investing in our staff. I appreciate that. I appreciate that in a major way. And I think that it shows through all of the individuals who showed up here tonight. It shows through the video that you guys put together, and how people spoke to the impact that extreme ownership is having on the way they feel about their job. And the culture, to me, the biggest thing that I heard is it's a shift in the culture. And I think it takes a lot to begin to shift the culture, so to start hearing language like that is a powerful and a meaningful thing. That's it from me, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only thing I have tonight is to remind people of the citywide cleanup on Saturday, October 14th. I'm going to get my dates wrong tonight. Councilmember Gunn. 7:30 to noon, Saturday, October 14th. Yeah, you got time. 7:30 to noon at the DPW facility. People who wish to come should come in off of Morrell Street, turn onto Water Street off of Morrell. We'd like to create a nice line there and have people exit on Franklin. There'll be a code red going out about it still this week to remind everybody. So happy to provide this service. Do whatever we can to keep the city and our dwelling units nice and clean for people. Thank you, that's all.
All right, at this time, be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Hey, no.
Come out here and do